All right, let's dive right into Unit 1 of AP Human Geography. Seriously, this isn't just some introductory chapter. It's the absolute foundation, the toolkit you're going to need to tackle the biggest questions in this whole course. Think of it as the new lens you're about to use to see the entire world.
I mean, have you ever really stopped to wonder about the big stuff? Like why is a huge city like New York even there? Or what makes some countries so rich while others struggle? Well, the answers to all those massive questions start with one thing: learning how to think like a geographer.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to hit 3 big ideas: how geographers spot patterns, the tools they use to figure them out, and that complicated relationship between us and the planet. Then we'll wrap it all up and see what it means for you on exam day.
Okay, first big idea. It's all about what geographers actually do. And really, at its core, geography is all about explaining the why of where. It's like being a detective, trying to find the hidden logic behind why things are laid out the way they are.
To get the where, you need to know 2 key terms. First, there's absolute location. That's like a spot's permanent address on Earth, latitude and longitude. But honestly, what's often way more important is relative location. That's all about how a place is connected to other things. For instance, New York City's success isn't really about its coordinates. It's about its incredible location on a natural harbor that made it a perfect hub for trade.
And this is a really cool distinction: space versus place. Space is just the empty area, like a blank canvas. But a place is what happens when we give that space meaning. It's filled with our culture, our memories, our experiences. Geographers are fascinated by how we turn empty spaces into meaningful places.
Distance itself is a powerful force. This idea, distance decay, is actually super simple. The farther you are from something, the less you'll interact with it. It just makes sense, right? You're probably going to go to the coffee shop down the street way more than one across the state. It's a basic rule of how we operate.
But here's where it gets interesting. We've found ways to cheat distance. Technology, from airplanes to the internet, has caused something called time-space compression. I mean, the actual mileage between New York and Tokyo hasn't changed one bit, but the time it takes to connect has shrunk like crazy. It makes our world feel so much smaller.
So once geographers understand these forces, they start seeing patterns everywhere. You see things clustered together, like a bunch of fast food restaurants at a highway exit, or things can be dispersed, like farmhouses in the country. Sometimes they're in a line, following a railroad. Just spotting these patterns is the first step to figuring out why they exist.
So now for our second big idea. How do geographers analyze all those patterns? Well, they need tools, and the most powerful tools in their entire toolbox are maps and data.
Okay, before we go any further, you have to get this one idea lodged in your brain. Every flat map is a lie. It's true. It is physically impossible to take our round planet and squish it onto a flat screen or paper without distorting something. Either size, shape, distance, or direction gets messed up. Every map has to choose which lie it's going to tell.
So when you look at any map, the first question you should ask is, what's its job? Is it a reference map, just trying to show you where things are, like a road map, or is it a thematic map, which is all about telling a story with data, like showing population density or election results?
Now, these thematic maps come in all kinds of flavors. A choropleth map uses different shades of color. A cartogram will literally warp the size of a country to match a piece of data. And a dot map, like the legendary one Jon Snow used to pinpoint a cholera outbreak in London, shows the exact location of things. Being able to tell these apart is a huge skill for the exam.
And remember that lie we just talked about? This is where you really see it. Every map has a projection. That's the specific method it uses to flatten the Earth. The famous Mercator projection is fantastic for navigation, but it makes Greenland look bigger than Africa, which is wild. The Peters projection gets the size right but messes up the shapes. This stuff matters because the map you use can totally change how you see the world.
These days, geographers have a superpower called GIS, or Geographic Information Systems. The easiest way to picture it is like a digital layer cake. You start with a basic map, then you add a layer of all the rivers. Then you add another layer showing all the factory locations. By seeing how those layers stack up, you can solve real problems, like figuring out which factory is polluting which river.
So where's all this data coming from? Well, a massive source is the census. And let me tell you, this is not just about counting people for fun. This data has real power. It decides how billions of dollars in federal money gets spent, and, this is huge, it determines how many seats each state gets in Congress. Geographic data literally shapes political power.
All right, let's hit our third and final big idea. We've talked about patterns and tools, but what about the stage where this all plays out?
This part is all about the constant give and take between us humans and the natural world.
You can think about this relationship in three main ways. 1. We depend on the environment for resources. 2. We have to think about sustainability, making sure there's enough to go around for future generations. And 3. We modify the environment to fit our needs, building cities and farms. It's this constant dance between depending on, changing, and adapting to our surroundings.
Now, how we think about this relationship is absolutely critical. For a long time, this old theory called environmental determinism was popular. It basically said the environment forces humans to be a certain way, and it was often used to justify some pretty ugly racist ideas. We've totally rejected that now in favor of possibilitism. Possibilitism says, yeah, the environment sets some limits, but humans are clever. We use technology and our own choices to overcome those limits.
And this right here is possibilism in action. We don't just see a desert and give up, we build a massive city like Dubai. We don't see a steep mountain and walk away, we carve incredible terrace farms into it. This proves we're active players shaping our world, not just helpless subjects of it. Okay, we've covered a ton, so let's pull all this together and talk about what it actually means for you and that AP exam.
First, a little perspective. Everything we've talked about today, from maps to possibilism, only makes up about 8 to 10% of your final exam score. Yeah, that's it. It's actually the lightest unit in the entire course. But, and this is a really big but, do not underestimate this unit. It might be light on points, but it is the absolute framework for the entire year. Think of it like the foundation of a house. The vocabulary, the concepts, you are going to use them in every single unit from here on out.
One of the most important scales you take away from this unit is understanding the scale of analysis. You've got to always ask yourself, am I looking at this problem on a global scale, regional, national, or local? Because a problem can look one way when you look at the whole country, but totally different when you zoom into one neighborhood. Changing the scale changes the whole story.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Unit 1 is basically a new pair of glasses. It gives you the toolkit to see the why of where all around you. So, as you go through your day, start looking for the patterns. Seriously, why is your school where it is? How has technology compressed the space between you and your friends? Start thinking like a geographer, and you'll begin to see the hidden logic that shapes our entire world.